welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Going to try and be a bit more bright and breezy and cheerful today, as a few viewers fed back that I was rather sad and morose yesterday, and so we'll try and be a bit more upbeat and cheerful today. Today's video going to be looking at a few articles relating to Brendan Rodgers' mindset and mentality at the moment, a few reactions to what some of the Celtic ex-player pundits have been saying regarding where Celtic are and where they need to get to, and changes, etc. for that. Also, update on a few different transfer rumours and ins and outs amongst the team. Also, a kind of reflection now that we're around about halfway through the season. I think, in technical terms, halfway through the season will be when we go into the winter shutdown, which will be after the St Mirren match at the start of 2024, which also coincides with when the various players from Japan, South Korea and Australia all potentially are going to be away at the Asian Cup for the next 6 weeks till mid-February. I think if Kyogo and Maeda and O are all away, with potentially Yang and Tilio also going off with them, that could actually create quite a big hole in Celtic's squad and team. For that reason, I think a couple of the good additions in the winter transfer window is going to be important, along with keeping Hatate, Abada, Maeda fully fit, and also I think the mid-season break is going to allow Carter Vickers and Johnston to fully get back to full fitness. I think they've both been struggling in the after effects of the summer surgeries they had on Carter Vickers' knee and on Johnston's ankle. I think they've not been quite at their full capacity this season, and I think possibly 2 or 3 weeks away from playing might well allow them to get fully back to full fitness and back to the abilities and skills they showed at the end of last season, after the mid-season break of Postecoglou's second season. So, firstly, just going to have a quick chat regarding what a few insiders have been saying in articles regarding Brendan Rodgers. He apparently is a bit low in his mood, said to be regretting his move back to Celtic. He was expressing that he thought that he would be welcomed back by the fans and players with open arms. I think very clearly the fans were going to struggle largely to welcome him back, given the fact that he very much left Celtic in the lurch to go off to Leicester previously. I think also that Ange Postecoglou had built up at Celtic in his 2 years an especially good atmosphere in the dressing room, on the pitch and in the training ground. And I think Rodgers has very much a different way of managing players. Postecoglou was never really one for criticising players in public. I'm sure Postecoglou and the coaches very much behind the scenes on the training pitches and the dressing room, etc., were giving players positive and negative feedback. Rodgers seems very keen on giving players negative feedback in public, in his press interviews, his press conferences, and his TV interviews. Very rarely ever seems positive about players, very rarely ever defends players, and seems to blanket blame players for everything, never putting his hand up and saying, I got the tactics wrong, I got the selections wrong. I think one of the key differences in last season and this season is I don't think Celtic's team spirit is nearly as good. I don't think the players' confidence is nearly good. And I think also a lot of the players are rather confused, as our tactics seem to chop and change. Players don't seem to be rewarded for a good performance. Lagerbielke did well coming on as a sub against Feyenoord, scored the winning goal, and yet he drops completely out of the squad for the next match. Bernardo came on early for Tomoki Iwata, did quite a good game, doing quite a lot of the hidden work and less obvious work, which allowed McGregor and O'Reilly to push further forward. Bernard are not part of the team next time around. We'd rather confusingly have Bernabe on the bench. He comes on despite the fact that he's certain to be leaving in a couple of weeks' time. We have Kwon on the bench rather than Thiago Holm. We continue to start Mikey Johnston wide out in the right. We bring in David Turnbull for a game. We drop David Turnbull for a game. We bring him back. We bring in Iwata. We bring in Thiago Holm. We bring in Bernardo. No one really seems to be earmarked as being the player replacing Rio Hatate whilst Hatate's out injured. That could not be good for team continuity, could not be good for team morale, it cannot be good for any of the players. I think players need to know where they are and what their status is. Ange Postecoglou very much saw David Turnbull as being a player to come on off the bench. Rodgers seems to change his mind as to what David Turnbull's role is, which must be very confusing for him, and maybe part of the reason that he's so reluctant to sign another contract at Celtic, despite from the board a very good offer. Greg Taylor, another player I think who's had his confidence ruined. His performances are way down this year, and all we seem to get from Rodgers is criticism of Taylor's defensive ability. And I think it's about time that Rodgers put his hand up and said, I'm getting the tactics wrong, I'm getting the selection wrong, I've got to make the dressing room back to the way it used to be. I've got to recognise when I said I was coming in to this team, we were going to be tweaking the tactics used by Ange Postecoglou. Instead, we've massively slowed the pace of the team down. We're going for lateral balls rather than trying to play through and play over defences using the pace of our wide players. We don't seem to be having those killer passes from McGregor, O'Reilly, etc., through defences for Kyogo to run onto, as we did so much last year. We seem to be quite predictable, which is why teams like Kilmarnock, Hearts, St Johnstone, Hibs, etc., have done a good job defending against us and frustrating us in several games this season. Similarly, also the Motherwell game, and also our defensive organisation and the way that our goalkeeper doesn't take control of the box. All these are very key factors, and all these things should have been ironed out on the training pitches and already by Rodgers, and doesn't seem to have addressed all those things. Same way that he's also rather rigid. He wants it always up in a 4-3-3, although he does tweak players in and out and around the system, and also is a great one. It appears to me to be playing round pegs and square holes and square pegs and round holes. I do think, however, there's plenty of time for Celtic to turn things around. We do have a 5-point lead, and although Rangers do have 2 games in hand over us, those games have to be won. They're going to be having quite a number of fixtures in a tight period of time, which also often impacts on things like suspension, fatigue, injuries, etc. And it does appear that there's quite a lot of overconfidence in amongst the Rangers players, manager, coaching staff, and a lot of their ex-player pundits, such as McCoist and Boyd, who seem, along with their manager Clement, to think that the Championship, the Premiership, is already won by Rangers. I am 100% certain that it's not. And if we think back to 2 years ago and Ange Postecoglou's first season, this time that season we were 6 points or more behind Rangers. When we came back from the mid-season break, we were 6 points behind Rangers, yet in the second half of that season we turned things around very well with a pivotal 3-0 victory over Rangers when we decimated them. I think that very much kick-started Celtic's season and moved to the title. We were 9 points ahead this time last year and maintained that to the end of the season. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Rangers might well cave under the pressure, as was the case under Giovanni van Bronckhorst and Michael Beale, and so think Celtic, as was suggested by Sutton and Lambert and Neil Lennon in their recent TV and radio pieces, I think Celtic are going to win the title. Celtic are going to turn things around, but it does require Brendan Rodgers to put his hand up, admit his mistakes, and rectify them as soon as possible. And I think bring in a couple of players in the transfer window. I think we need a new number 6 to allow McGregor and so on to move forward, or Riley and Hatate to move forward. We need another goalkeeper to replace Hart, who I think has become a liability, and we need an additional striker to support Kyogo and O, particularly substituting for them when they're away on Asian Cup duty. In terms of players coming in and out, Alexandro Bernabe very much is on his way out. He is said to have several clubs lined up in Argentina and also in Italy, very keen to sign him in the next transfer window. Hopefully we can recoup most of that 3.75 million we spent on him. Yuki Kobayashi also is said to be being scouted by a number of J-League sides they can take back either on loan or probably more likely transfer. Hopefully we can get rid of Siegrist and McCarthy, who are just warming seats in the stands or at home and are not contributing at all to the squad or to the team. I really do hope that we reverse the choice of ditching Lagerbielke 4 months into his Celtic career. I think Lagerbielke is a player of great potential, already voted last year as the Player of the Year, the Defender of the Year in Sweden, current international for Sweden. He is taller than all our other centre defenders, much more of an aerial threat in both boxes, and also younger than all our other established centre backs, apart from Navrocki, who is a year younger. So younger than Scales, younger than Welsh, younger than Carter Vickers, and for me, the better solution for shoring up Celtic's defence in the next few months, moving Scales over to left back and bringing in Navrocki and or Lagerbielke beside Carter Vickers. In terms of players coming in, Celtic seem dead set on signing Thiago Araujo, despite the fact he doesn't seem to tick any of the boxes that Rodgers has talked about this meeting. Araujo yet to be proven, not played really at the highest level, isn't actually by usual position at a left back and a back four. He plays much more often as the left wing back in a back five, quite often plays left midfield in a 4-4-2 with another player playing at left back behind him. His strengths are his passing and attacking, crossing and shooting. His strengths are not tackling, not intercepting, and so I am actually rather surprised that Celtic are so keen to sign him. He seems much more of a Bernabe clone rather than a defender who can stop us slipping goals right, left and centre down our left side. In terms of players coming in, there appears to be nobody earmarked to take over as a number 6. Although I'm going to be doing a video later on that does suggest a potential player to fill that role, to free up O'Reilly, Hatate, Bernardo, McGregor, etc. There have been a few players speculated as coming in to replace Joe Hart, although nothing concrete. We do seem to be closely following Matthias Kiesgarden, the Brøndby striker. Celtic were very keen to rekindle their interest in the winter window, having been rebuffed in the summer window, where Brøndby decided they weren't going to sell him at any price up until January. Schalke 04 in Germany are very keen to sign him as well. They've been making inquiries. Kiesgarden in the past has talked about a preference to go to Germany rather than to any other country for his transfer, although had expressed that coming to Celtic would be a good option for him. and so he may choose to come to Celtic instead, um, for a guarantee of regular European football. And I think if he looks as good and plays as well as he appears to do, I think he could very quickly move from being number 3 to number 1 striker at Celtic, um, with Kyogo and O being the backup players coming off the bench. And I think that is actually the one difference recently as well, is we just haven't been having impact players coming off the bench, which was something we very much had in Postecoglou's second season, with a lot of good players on the bench to come on and make an impact. And that hasn't been the case this season, partly due to rather a lot of injuries, and one or two odd selections and um, considerations by Rodgers as to who is in favour with him and who's out of favour with him. If Keith Gordon's transfer falls through, I think Sidney van Hooijdonk would be a good option to back that up. I think he would have equally the skills to move to be a Celtic main striker in the long term. Moving back to Brendan Rodgers, as I said, I think it's time that he put his hand up, admitted his mistakes, admitting that the blame lies strongly with him. I think he needs to start supporting the players far better, restoring the dressing room atmosphere. I think his minor tweaks have been much more significant than he was saying he was going to do. And the other thing I think he needs to stop doing is constantly talking about the players he has at Celtic not being his players, implying that the players who came in the summer transfer window earlier this season are not players that he wanted. Admittedly, a few of those players did come in just as he was signing for Celtic in June 2023. So players like Orton, Thiago Holm, Marco Tilio, Yang, um, were already on there, and Tomoki Iwata were already all lined up to come into Celtic when he was taking over. However, Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, Paulo Bernardo, Luis Palma, Nat Phillips were all players coming in August, so well into his couple of months at that point time at Celtic. And so those players are very clearly his players, and I think he should start treating all the players, i.e. the ones who came in early summer, the ones who came in late summer, and the players already at Celtic, start treating them all as his players and stop deflecting the blame to the board, to the scouting staff, etc. I think the whole Celtic front team needs to work together, i.e. the board, the backroom staff, the coaching staff, the manager and the players need to all come together as one unit. And I think that's where great managers such as Postecoglou, Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan, Jock Stein, Billy McNeil all were very good at, was getting everybody playing together, working together and fighting together for Celtic. And I think that's where Rodgers has very much let everybody down, because we don't have that team spirit, we don't have that connection between the players, the board, the fans, and the backroom staff. And that's what needs to be restored. And certainly the opinion of great ex-players like Lennon, Lambert, Sutton is the way to go, and that's what Rodgers has to concentrate on. And I really hope that he does do that over the next few weeks leading into the winter transfer break and the mid-season break in early January. So we're 18 games into the 38-game league season. Once we get past the St Mirren match, that'll be halfway through, although it'll be slightly past that in terms of the number of games played. We've got a 5-point lead. Rangers could overhaul that. I think the game against Rangers just before New Year is going to be very important. I think Celtic have every chance, if we can get the spirit back up to beat Rangers in that game and give ourselves a nice lead moving into 2024. Hopefully we can work our way around missing a few players due to the Asian Cup and maintain the energy and the winning spirit through to the end of the season. I still very confidently think Celtic will win the title and win the Scottish Cup double in the early months of 2024. But it is going to require a big effort from Rodgers, a change in spirit and mentality and management style. But I think we've got some very good players already in the squad if they're played in the right system and have their confidence and team spirit restored. As I said, I'll be doing a little video later on today or tomorrow regarding a potential number 6 player for Celtic. And we'll carry on doing wee updates for the rest of the week in preparation also for a pre-match preview of the Livingston match at the weekend. So thanks for listening today. Thanks for watching today. Do like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Do feel free to pop comments regarding the video, regarding players, regarding where you think Celtic is, where Celtic needs to go, changes that we need to make, etc. Do pop those into the comment section, as it does make me so happy to read other fans' opinions. And so until tomorrow, thanks, goodbye, and hail, hail.